Alright, welcome back to the channel. I mentioned in the previous video that I was going to be rebuilding the brakes. So you'll see the car's up in the air just now and the brakes are off, both at the front and the back. And I've actually went ahead and I've stripped them right down, painted them up. I've fitted new pistons and seals from Bigg Redd. On the rears I've painted the handbrake brackets and cleaned up the mechanisms and stuff. If you're wondering what sort of brakes these are, Renault Megane 225s. They're quite a common caliper. They're just a 4-pot Brembo. But what's good about these is they're radial mounted. So what that means is they're sort of mounted perpendicular to the stub axle. I think I showed these brackets in a previous video, but these were made by a chap called Richard, who runs Northeast Brakes. He's an absolutely lovely fella, and he's perfect for this sort of thing, sort of custom brake setups. He actually machined these sort of 2-piece spigot rings for me as well. These spigots will centre the disc and they'll also centre the wheel over that spigot as well, so they've got a kind of step in behind there. On the rears, I'm using a Mazda RX-8 rear axle, which is actually the same setup as Mark III Mx2. So they use all the same suspension arms. So you got 5 suspension arms at the back, each side. When they're 2 at the top, 3 along the bottom. They use the same rear subframe. The only difference, same knuckles as well. The only difference is they use a smaller disc. So an RX-8 runs a 300mm disc, I think, at the back, which is a bit big for what I was needing. So these are a 280mm disc off a Mark III Mx2, and this is a Mark III Mx2 rear caliper. So I'm just running those at the back with a 280 disc. Now obviously that's a 5-stud setup. The disc's originally 5x114 or whatever the Japanese PCD is. So these discs are just re-drilled. So I'm running 4x108 all over the car, so 4-stud stuff, but you can get these discs for pennies. I think these were like 20 quid for a pair of discs. And whenever I need to replace them, I'll just use these as basically a template to re-drill new ones, so should be good to go in that respect. These are 15mm spacers, just to bring the wheel out slightly, just to sort of fill the wide arches a bit more. So yeah, these calipers obviously just bolt right up into the knuckles. I've got all the brake lines and stuff around already. So I have new pistons and seals as well. Just need to change the bleed nipples and grease the spring and stuff like that, and we should be good to go. Now obviously I'm not running a brake servo anymore. I'm running a bias pedal box. So I've just got my 2 pots at the front for the front and rear. And then I've got this OBP pedal box. So you'll see the brakes, it's like a dual piston setup, so obviously one goes to the front, one goes to the back. And essentially to adjust the bias, I'll have this threaded bar here can be adjusted, so I'll have a kind of cord cable type thing that will run up to the dash, so I'll be able to adjust the bias. Because obviously I'm going to want slightly more braking to the front. I'll just have to play around with it to see what works, but that's it pretty much. No servo, no brake assist or anything, just the pedal, master cylinders, brake lines and straight to the calipers. And then obviously we're rear wheel drive, so we've got to run a hydro so we can flick it out sideways. So yeah, that'll need bled as well. And excuse the mess in here, but it is braided lines all the way through, so through the hydro, up the back, goes into here, goes into a T-piece, and then goes off to each caliper. So yeah, I just need to put on new bleed nipples on both of these. Same for these. I do have some little cheapo Brembo stickers to go on these, because obviously painting them covered up the last bit. I'll need to fit these as well. These are the sort of unions that sort of go on the top there to feed the pistons at both sides. For the rears, I have also painted up the carriers and I've fitted new sliding pins and grease those up, so we'll obviously get them on as well. And then in here I've got new pads and just all the new, you know, clip mechanisms, new pins and stuff like that, so we'll get all that fitted. So anyway, I'm going to crack on and get these built up and get them fitted to the car. Alright, so as you can see, all the refurbished calipers are now on the car, and I think it's fair to say it looks pretty good. The red against the white, particularly the fronts. Those little cheap Brembo stickers have really made a difference. So obviously the rears are all hooked up to the handbrake cables and stuff like that as well. And as I said before, there's new sliders on there. New slider pins, they're all greased up and stuff as well, so these are good to go once they're bled. As for the front calipers, these are actually slightly easier to fit. There's no sliding pins or anything like that on the carriers. They simply bolt up to the carriers with these two big bolts, and then you've got the pins that push through and the pads kind of lock into them, and then there's this sort of tensioned bracket type thing that basically holds tension on the pads to keep them in, and that's it pretty much. So yep, that's that. One more job off the list. All that's left to do now is bleed the brakes. I'll go around all my brake lines that are fitted and just check they're all nipped up tight. So yeah, I'll do all that bleeding stuff off camera. It's all kind of boring stuff. But that's going to wrap it up for this one. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that good YouTube stuff. The car's really coming together now. It's getting to the sort of final stages of the build. But yeah, that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.